Sir, we are live now.
Okay, Ashdeep. We all are set. We can go ahead.
Yes, sir. All set.
Tarun?
Hello.
Tarun, you can start now.
A very good afternoon to everyone. Myself, Tarun Chawda, MBBS student from AIIMS Raebareli. I welcome you all. Myself, Tarun Chawda, MBBS student from AIIMS Raebareli. I welcome you all on behalf of Department of Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Raebareli, for this webinar on front of package labeling and childhood obesity. This webinar is organized in collaboration with AIIMS Rishikesh with an endeavor to increase the awareness regarding the importance of front of package labeling to curb NCDs with special emphasis on childhood obesity. To enlighten about this topic, we are honored to have a panel of esteemed speakers from various prestigious institutes. A warm welcome to all of you. Now, before starting the webinar, let's dedicate a prayer to Goddess of Knowledge, Ma Saraswati, to seek her blessing and wisdom for successful completion of the webinar. Melodious prayer has filled the atmosphere with positive energy. So with this positivity, we proceed with our sessions. Now, I would like to invite upon Professor Dr. Bholanath, Head of Department, Community and Family Medicine, for the welcome note.
Thank you, Tarun. On behalf of Department of Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Raebareli, I welcome all our eminent speakers and participants to today's national webinar on front of package labeling and childhood obesity. This webinar is organized by Department of Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Raebareli, in collaboration with the AIIMS Rishikesh. At the outset, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our Honorable Executive Director, Dr. Arvind Rajvanshi sir, and Dean, Dr. Neeraj Kumari ma'am, for providing us their relentless support and guidance in organizing this webinar, without which organizing the webinar would not have been possible. I would also like to thank Dr. Pradeep Agarwal from AIIMS Rishikesh for providing all his support in organizing this webinar. This webinar has been planned with the objective of creating awareness on the ill effects of childhood obesity and how misleading advertisement is adding into this problem. Today's children aged 8 to 18 years consume multiple types of media. Often they are using all these medias simultaneously and spend more than 44.5 hours per week. They used to use these medias in varieties of forms such as computer, televisions, game screens, etc. During this time, they also come across various kinds of the advertisements, some of which are on the advertisements related to the foods. Research has found a strong association between increase in advertising for non-nutritious food and rates of childhood obesity. Not only this, it has also got implication on several other aspects of the health. Most of the children do not understand the persuasive intent of advertising. Also, I would like to here state that children have got remarkable ability to recall the content from the ads to which they have been exposed. Product preference has shown to occur with as little as single commercial exposure to the related exposures. Product preferences also affect children's product purchase who request their parents to purchase the products they want. And this also changes the parents' decision on which product we have to buy. This has got ultimately effect onto the health of the children. Not only this, it gradually satisfies the children which has been perceived by the parents. And this is going to change the behavior of the children, satisfaction level of the parents, and so on. Apart from this, webinar also emphasizes on what policies which could be developed to curb this issue through keynote lectures by me as well as by our other eminent speakers. This will be followed by a question and answer session. I'm pleased to share that there are roughly 500 participants who have registered to this webinar from various parts of the country in itself, which in itself shows the importance of the webinar. I am sure that the participants will have an enriching learning experience today by attending this webinar. With this, I would like to invite Tarun to kindly take this webinar forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. Now, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Neeraj Kumari, Dean Academics, AIIMS Raebareli, to address the webinar. Ma'am has more than 100 publications in various national and international journals. She has keen interest in evidence-based medicine with more than 30 intra and extramural research projects to her credit. Her specialty is histo and cytopathology. Despite that, ma'am has shown keen interest in encouraging us in public health. I welcome you, ma'am, for your words of encouragement. Over to you, ma'am.
Head of the Department of Community and Family Medicine at AIIMS Raebareli, Professor Bholanath. The nodal in charge of this program, Dr. Neeraj Pawar, the faculty members of the Department of Community and Family Medicine, our eminent speakers, and dear delegates. A very good afternoon to everyone. I'm really happy and thankful to the Department of Community Medicine and Community and Family Medicine who has taken this initiative to hold a webinar to have an encouragement and increase in knowledge about front of package labeling. With the increased rate of obesity occurring in our children, it's very important to know what our children are eating, what they should eat, what is good for their health. So it's a very good initiative, and I thank the Department of Community and Family Medicine to have a webinar where they can share their knowledge and have a discussion with each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. So our director, sir, is little busy. He will join us in within 2 minutes. Till then, I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Tanumida, ma'am, for the first scientific session of the day. Ma'am is a professor in Department of Community Medicine, GSVM Kanpur. She is an eminent personality in the field of community medicine. Ma'am has worked as health and nutritional technical coordinator in Kanpur division with collaboration with UNICEF and Government of Uttar Pradesh. She has more than 60 publications in journal of national and international repute. Over to you, ma'am.
Are you there, ma'am? Dr. Tanumida?
Due to some technical issues, we are holding our sessions for 2 minutes. We will continue after just 2 minutes. Now, I would like to invite our guest of honor, Executive Director and CEO, AIIMS Raebareli, Professor Dr. Arvind Rajvanshi sir. Sir is renowned personality in the field of medicine and healthcare research. He has published more than 300 in various national and international journals. Apart from vast experience in field of medical teaching and research, Sir has rich experience in medical administration also. Sir has also been awarded with various prestigious awards during his career. I welcome you, sir, for guiding us for the webinar. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be associated with this webinar to be conducted by Department of Community Medicine and Family Medicine at AIIMS Raebareli. It involves the topic of non-communicable diseases, basically, which may include hypertension, diabetes, tobacco-related diseases, and the main emphasis is on packaging level and childhood obesity. Now, it is very important because when we look at the statistics, in 1990, the NCD was 37%, which has risen to 67% 2020. A remarkable increase in the disease pattern as far as non-communicable disease is concerned. And more important is the children, which we are getting obesity because they and their parents have no information about the contents of the food they're eating. Most important, we eat your potato wafers. Previously, there used to be potato wafers, which is just simple potato with salt. Now there are potatoes with cheese, with so many other additions that they consume a lot of calories. Another thing is they don't exercise. They are most of the time sitting in their home, not playing outside, and that adds to the number of calories which are effective or which can be used to make them obese. The idea on the packaging of the food item is that it should provide information to the parents about the calories, amount of fat, amount of sugars, and more important is also sodium, because that leads to a very preemptive hypertension. And I think this webinar will go a long way in advising our processed food manufacturers to put various labels about the contents of the food. At the same time, the best will be to avoid such foods. Forget about the packing, forget about what they are. I will wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for gracing the occasion with your words of wisdom. We are honored by your presence. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Tanumeda ma'am for today's first scientific session, which topic is childhood obesity the iceberg which needs attention. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, everybody. Actually, it was a technical glitch. I could not connect because of the weather, maybe. So I'm really sorry for the delay. I'd like to begin with, I'd like to say thanks to respected Dean Sir, respected Director Sir, respected Dean Ma'am, and respected HOD CFM, and all my dear faculty members and dear JRs. My topic today is childhood obesity, an iceberg that needs attention. So I'd like to share my slides. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just sharing. Okay. So this is a very important topic, that is childhood obesity. Like what we see nowadays, initially when we were young, very few children used to be found obese. But nowadays the scene is like most of the children, almost 50 to 60% children are fat, and all that they consume is junk food. They like to go to McDonald's, they like to have burgers. And that is where we need to focus our attention, that why is this obesity pandemic going on? So first, I would like to start with the definition of obesity. Obesity is a condition of abnormal or excessive fat accumulation in adipose tissue to the extent that health may be impaired. Whenever there is an impairment in health, then only we consider that issue. And if there is an impairment in health, that is why obesity parameters are there, and we have to take care of that. The most common indicator to measure obesity is body mass index, also known as Quetelet's index, defined as weight in kg upon height in meter square. As we all know, for an adult, the criteria for overweight is a BMI of 25 to 30. And the criteria for obesity in adults is a BMI more than or equal to 30. Among children, the criteria for overweight is 85 to 95 centile on the growth chart, on the BMI chart, BMI versus age. And for obesity, it is more than or equal to 95 centile. Now, what is the global scenario of obesity? The burden of the problem. According to WHO, 39 million children under the age of 5 years were overweight or obese in 2020. So 39 million is a huge amount. Over 340 million children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 years were overweight or obese in 2016. The age group 10 to 19 years is also included in the pediatric age group. Globally, the prevalence of overweight and obesity among children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 years has risen from only 4% in 1975 to 18% in 2016. That is a rise of 14% in 40 years. And if you talk about adults, in 2016, more than 1.9 billion adults 18 years and old were overweight. Of these, over 650 million were obese. And 39% of adults aged 18 years and over were overweight in 2016. And of these, 13% were obese. So this is the global scenario. If we talk about India, according to the CNNS survey, that is Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey, which was done in 2016, over 17 million children aged 5 to 19 years in India are affected by obesity. If the current trend persists, India is likely to contribute 11% of the global burden of childhood obesity by 2030. So global burden, we will be sharing 11% by 2030. And a recent study based on 19,000 school children in Chennai reported the prevalence of overweight to be 17%, while that of obesity to be 4.4% amongst private school children. This study was published in AIIMS in 2016. The prevalence of overweight and obesity has been found to be higher in urban areas. And according to the ICMR INDIAB study 2015, the prevalence rate of obesity in adults varies from 11.8 to 31.3%, and of central obesity varies from 16.9 to 36.3% respectively. Now, why is this childhood obesity is a concern? Why are we so worried about this? Because this does not end here. This gets carried forward into adulthood. And then in adulthood, it gives rise to serious problems. So the tracking occurs throughout life. What happens is that 10 to 20% of the obese infants, they later on become into obese adults. If we talk about children, 40% of obese children, they turn out to be obese adults in adulthood. And amongst adolescents, 60 to 80% of obese adolescents, they turn into obese adults. So if we don't correct this obesity at these stages, then definitely it will lead to obesity in adulthood. Now, there is one thing that is known as tracking of obesity. There are three crucial periods that determine the chance of obesity during adulthood. First is the prenatal period. Infants of obese mothers have a higher chance of developing obesity at 6 to 10 years, and that persists into adulthood. Another phenomena that has been come to light in the recent years is adiposity rebound. I'll deal with it later. Early adiposity rebound was associated with parental obesity. Means if there was parental obesity, there was a tendency of early adiposity rebound, and early adiposity rebound in itself leads to persistence of obesity in adulthood. And the third phenomena is adolescence. Obesity in adolescence definitely persists in adulthood. So these are the three periods during one's life where we have to be careful about obesity. Now, what is adiposity rebound? In general, BMI rapidly increases during the first year of life, as we all know. Then it subsequently decreases and reaches the lowest point at around 6 years of age. Thereafter, BMI increases again throughout childhood. And this second rise is referred to as adiposity rebound. I repeat, till 1 year, BMI increases. 1 to 6 years, BMI decreases. This 6 years of age is the turning point. And this is known as adiposity rebound because after 6 years, there is a second rise of obesity. And this adiposity rebound was first reported in 1984 by Roland Cachera et al. And they found a relationship between the age at adiposity rebound and final adiposity. That is, a child, if he had earlier adiposity rebound, then he definitely had adiposity at the age of 16 years. And these people, they showed that an early rebound, that is, if the rebound occurred before the age of 5.5 years, is followed by a higher adiposity level than a later rebound. That is, if the rebound occurred after 7 years of age, the chances of obesity were less. But if there was an early rebound, that is, if the rebound occurred at 5.5 years of age, then the chances of obesity were high. Since then, numerous studies have suggested early adiposity rebound as a predictive marker of obesity in later childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. So we have to be careful about childhood obesity. And we have to do everything possible to curb childhood obesity. Now I'll come to the complications of childhood obesity. So if we talk about the psychological impact of childhood obesity, the children, they land in poor self-esteem. Because any child who's fat, he's always concerned, I'm not looking good. Compared to my classmates, compared to my friends, I don't look good. So he lands into poor self-esteem, which later on leads to depression. And the quality of life of such children is also poor because they're all the time troubled psychologically, troubled about their looks, and troubled about the way people make fun of them. Then if we come to the medical complications, amongst the pulmonary complications, asthma is one, sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, and exercise intolerance. Amongst the gastrointestinal complications, pancreatitis, that is inflammation of mesenteric fat, steatohepatitis, liver fibrosis, gallstones, risk for cirrhosis, and risk for colon cancer. The obesity also affects kidneys. It leads to glomerulosclerosis and proteinuria. The obesity also affects the musculoskeletal system, and it leads to forearm fracture, Blount's disease, slipped capital femoral epiphysis, flat feet, and risk for degenerative joint disease because of the heavy weight that the knees are carrying. Then amongst the neurological problems, one is pseudotumor cerebri, and there is also the risk for stroke because of atherosclerosis. And amongst the cardiovascular problems, dyslipidemia, hypertension, left ventricular hypertrophy, chronic inflammation, endothelial dysfunction, which leads to atherosclerosis and which leads to a higher risk of coronary disease. And amongst the endocrine problems, type 2 diabetes, precocious puberty, polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOD, which is very common in girls now, and hypogonadism in boys. And also it gives rise to abdominal hernia and deep vein thrombosis, pulmonary embolism, and also to stress incontinence and risk of gynecological malignancies. So this is the whole spectrum of medical complications that can be caused by childhood obesity alone. So now we know why is it important, why we are discussing this on this platform. Now, obesity and NCDs. A 10 kg higher body weight is associated with a 3 mm higher systolic and a 2.3 mm higher diastolic blood pressure. It also gives rise to a 12% increase in coronary heart disease, 24% increased risk for stroke. About things which carry a huge burden of mortality. Now, what is the global scenario of non-communicable diseases? According to WHO, NCDs kill 41 million people each year, which is equivalent to 71% of all deaths globally. So 71% of mortality is contributed by NCDs. Each year, more than 15 million people die from an NCD between the ages of 30 to 69 years. 85% of these premature deaths occur in low and middle income countries. 77% of all NCD related deaths are in low and middle income countries. So we contribute a major proportion of premature deaths and NCD deaths. Amongst the cardiovascular diseases account for most NCD deaths, or 17.9 million people annually, followed by cancers, which is 9.3 million, respiratory diseases, 4.1 million, and diabetes, 1.5 million. These four groups of diseases account for over 80% of all premature NCD deaths. Tobacco use, physical inactivity, the harmful use of alcohol, and unhealthy diets all increase the risk of dying from an NCD. Because unhealthy diets are a major contributor to childhood obesity, that is why we are discussing obesity in terms of FOPL at this platform today. Now we come to the causes of obesity. First of all, prenatal causes. If there is an overweight mother, or there is intrauterine growth restriction, or gestational diabetes, then the child is likely to be obese in later life. Early faulty feeding practices. Lack of breastfeeding gives rise to obesity. Increased formula feeds. Complementary feeding before 6 months. These factors are basic factors, but they are also responsible for obesity. Then amongst the demographic causes, parental overweight and low parental education. When the parent doesn't know what to feed the child, then also obesity results. Now the causes of obesity. Medical causes are also there. Medications like antipsychotics, olanzapine and risperidone, these cause obesity. Anti-epileptics, carbamazepine, valproate, and steroids. Amongst the dietary causes, increased junk food, increased sweetened beverages, and less fiber in diet. So this is where FOPL plays a role. It will help us to curb the intake of all these things. Then lifestyle factors. If screen time is more, lack of physical activity, and irregular sleep, these are the causes of obesity. Now, when we classify obesity, the primary or constitutional obesity, this does not have any secondary cause. And more than 95% cases of obesity are primary and constitutional obesity. The secondary causes, or exogenous obesity or organic obesity, it includes genetic causes like Prader-Willi syndrome, Down syndrome, Bardet-Biedl syndrome, Cohen's and Carpenter syndrome. And hypothalamic causes like infectious causes, tubercular meningitis, post-meningitis sequelae, intracranial space-occupying lesion, radiation, head trauma, surgery, hypothalamic hematoma. Endocrine, Cushing syndrome, hypothyroidism, pseudohypothyroidism, PCOS, these are the endocrine causes. Then medications like antipsychotics, anti-epileptics, steroids, psychological factors like depression, attention deficit, and bulimia, and handicapped children with sedentary lifestyle. But the most important is primary or constitutional obesity, for which there is no secondary cause. And diet plays a very important role in these primary obesity cases. And these are 95%. So this is where we have to focus our attention. Now, these are some of the peripheral hormones that regulate the eating behavior. CCK, amylin, insulin, and glucagon. These are secreted by the GI tract and pancreas. They target the vagus and they limit the size of meal. PYY, GLP-1, and oxycynomodulin. These target the brainstem and hypothalamus and they postpone the next meal. Leptin is a major important factor in the pathophysiology of obesity. It is secreted by the adipose tissue. It targets the brainstem and arcuate nucleus, and it helps in the long-term regulation of food intake. And ghrelin, it is secreted by the stomach. It targets the vagus and hypothalamus, and it increases the food intake. Leptin creates satiety, and ghrelin initiates appetite. Now we come to the types of obesity. There is apple type of obesity or android obesity and pear type of obesity or gynoid obesity. Apple type means excess fat on the abdomen. Like here, it is more common in men. And it has a significant correlation with metabolic syndrome. Pear type of obesity means excess fat is on the thighs and buttocks. It is common in women. And it does not have any significant correlation with metabolic syndrome. There is another term known as normal weight obesity. American Heart Association has come up with this term, and it is defined as having a body mass index, having a normal body mass index, but a high body fat mass. So BMI is normal, but the body fat mass is high. And this is associated with the presence of cardiometabolic disease and CVD. And this normal weight obesity leads to misclassification and underdiagnosis of CVD because the BMI will be checked, it is normal. So nobody will assess that patient for CVD risk and he will land into CVD. And the proxy markers for this are high waist circumference. Thus, a high waist circumference, even in individuals with normal weight, may unmask higher CVD risk because waist circumference is an indicator of abdominal body fat. And this abdominal body fat is associated with cardiometabolic disease and CVD and is predictive of mortality. Then there is peripheral versus central obesity. These are the different terms used in terms of obesity. In the peripheral type, fat is accumulated around the hip and thigh areas. And in the central type of obesity, fat occupies the abdominal region of the subjects. Another term that we come across is subcutaneous obesity versus visceral obesity. Now, waist circumference is a surrogate marker of visceral fat. In women, a waist circumference of more than 35 inches leads to an increased risk of CVD. This was according to a paper published in Lancet. And amongst men, more than 40 inches of waist circumference results in an increased risk of CVD. This visceral adiposity, this denotes that fat is deposited in the intra-abdominal region here, around the visceral organs. And that is why this is deleterious to health. And this leads to visceral adiposity. Now, what is the risk because of this central obesity or visceral adiposity? This intra-abdominal adiposity, it gives rise to high blood pressure, high triglycerides, high LDL, low HDL, inflammatory markers, elevated blood glucose, and insulin resistance, which in turn gives rise to type 2 diabetes. This in turn gives rise to CVD. So there is an increased risk of CVD and mortality. Now, subcutaneous obesity is a good kind of obesity because there is healthy adipose tissue, and this adipose tissue is deposited in the subcutaneous layer. There is no ectopic fat. The muscle fat is low, epicardial fat is low, and low liver fat and normal function of the liver. So the metabolic profile is normal, and there is absence of clinical criteria for metabolic syndrome. Whereas in visceral obesity, there is dysfunctional adipose tissue. This gets deposited around the abdominal organs. There is altered free fatty acid metabolism, altered release of adipokines, and lipid overflow to an ectopic fat rests in the organs. Increased muscle fat, increased intracellular lipid, increased epicardial fat, increased liver fat, and altered liver function. Then this gives rise to increased LDL, lower HDL, and increased triglycerides. This leads to altered metabolic profile and the presence of clinical criteria for metabolic syndrome, including hypertriglyceridemic waist. So in visceral obesity, there are chances of metabolic syndrome, CVD, and all the other comorbidities, and finally mortality. Now, as we all know, the measurement of obesity is done by body mass index. Underweight is BMI less than 18.5, healthy weight 18.5 to 25, overweight 25 to 29.9, obesity 30 to 34.9, obesity grade 1, obesity grade 2 is 35 to 39.9, and extreme obesity or obesity grade 3 is more than 40. And the risk of disease increases in overweight classes and class 1, class 2, and class 3 obesity. Amongst children, the CDC growth charts are there in which BMI is plotted against age, and these charts are for 2 to 20 years. 85th percentile, BMI more than 85th percentile is classified as overweight. BMI more than 95th percentile is classified as obese. And in children less than 2 years, WHO has given weight for length charts to define obesity. Obesity is more than +2 standard deviation. Other measures methods to measure obesity: skin fold thickness, waist-hip ratio, waist circumference, and some imaging studies like DEXA, USG, CT scan, MRI, and bioelectrical impedance. These methods are also being used to measure obesity. Visceral obesity can only be assessed with CT scan and MRI. Waist circumference is only a proxy marker for visceral obesity. These are the CDC growth charts. We can see 85th percentile, above this is overweight, and 95th percentile, above this is obese. And this is for boys and this is for girls. Blue for boys and pink for girls. Now we come to the management of obesity. For management of obesity, a multidisciplinary approach has to be followed: dietary management, weight monitoring, and physical activity. And if required, pharmacological and surgical management. Now, what do we include in dietary management? Diet must be a weight-reducing diet, but at the same time, it must provide all the essential nutrients. The principle is that caloric intake should be adjusted such that there is a deficit of 3,500 kilocalories to bring about a weight loss of 0.5 kg. Let's say over a week, we are reducing 500 calories per day. So in a week, in 7 days, 500 into 7, 3,500 kilocalories deficit will be there in a week. So in a week, the child will lose 0.5 kg. This is how we plan the diets. And this is as per the recommended daily allowance for that age. We have these recommended daily allowance charts for children. So age-wise, the recommended daily allowance for calories is given. And in this, we have to plan the weight-reducing diet by cutting the calories in the daily diet chart. Then replace fat with complex carbohydrates, that is low glycemic index carbohydrates. Increase fiber intake. This is very important. Intake of fiber should be age plus 5 to 10 grams per day. Then these are the NIN charts. And for weight monitoring, what is recommended is that for a child less than or equal to 11 years of age, the target should be reduction by 0.5 kg in 1 month, 0.5 kg per month. And for a child more than 11 years, the target should be 1 kg per week. This is the maximum that we can go for. Then physical activity should be safe, interesting, and practical. I'll come to the recommendations by WHO regarding physical activity later. For pharmacological treatment, anti-obesity drugs are still being evaluated in children, advised only in children more than 16 years of age with obesity-related complications. Only approved drug is Orlistat, which is more than or equal to 12 years of age, and the dose is 150 mg TDS. In surgical management, more than 50, if the BMI is more than 50 kilogram per meter square, then without comorbidities, surgery is done. And if the BMI is more than 40, then if the person has comorbidities, then surgery is done. Surgery is laparoscopic adjustable gastric banding and Roux-en-Y gastric bypass and sleeve gastrectomy. Now, prevention of childhood obesity. In diet, in infants up to 6 months, exclusive breastfeeding should be practiced. Then timely introduction of complementary feeding, that is at 6 months. Healthy feeding practices, these are very important. Then no fat restriction should be done in infants less than 2 years of age, and in more than 2 years of age, fat contribution should not be more than 20 to 30% of total calories. Fiber in diet should be age plus 5 grams per day. Now, for prevention of childhood obesity, unhealthy food should be replaced with healthy food. Like carbonated drinks should be replaced with coconut water, fresh juices. Pasta and Maggi can be replaced with dalia, suji ki kheer, pulao, etc. Fried potato chips should be replaced with a healthy option, baked millet chips. Choco should be replaced with poha. Yogurt with homemade curd. Chocolate can be replaced with dates. Bournvita with cashew powder. Biscuits with homemade snacks like groundnuts, gram, and puffed rice. In the olden days, when these MNCs were not there and packaged food was not available, we used to thrive on homemade snacks only and we used to enjoy it. So that is where we have to come back to the basics maybe. Then another thing for prevention of childhood obesity is lifestyle and physical activity. The WHO recommends that no TV for children less than 2 years. For children more than 2 years, not more than 1 hour per day. And physical activity in 24 hours, the recommendation by WHO in children 1 to 2 years is that they should spend at least 180 minutes in a variety of types of physical activities at any intensity, including moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity spread throughout the day. The more, the better. For 3 to 4 years of age, the recommendation is the child should spend at least 180 minutes in a variety of physical activities at any intensity, of which at least 60 minutes is moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity spread throughout the day. And children and adolescents aged 5 to 17 years should do at least an average of 60 minutes per day of moderate to vigorous intensity. This 5 to 17 years have to do 60 minutes per day of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity, mostly aerobic, and this should be spread across the week. Then the most important thing is behavior change. Parental motivation and commitment should be there. What we are giving to the children. When the parents are concerned about the nutrition, then only the childhood nutrition will be at par with what is recommended. No stacking of unhealthy food in the house. If we stack unhealthy food in the house, the children are bound to eat it. So if we don't stack this unhealthy food, then children will turn to healthier options. Setting realistic goals for exercise, positive reinforcement, and timely monitoring. Thank you. So this is all about childhood obesity, and like we see that childhood obesity leads to faulty eating habits, and to curb these faulty eating habits, FOPL plays an important role. So that is why we are holding this seminar on this platform to educate everybody about FOPL.
Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting the problem of childhood obesity and its long-term impact on NCD burden. Now, for the next session, we will try to understand the role of advertisement on consumer behavior, for which I would like to invite Professor Dr. Bholanath, who has a vast experience in the field of community medicine and health researches. Sir did his MBBS and MD from KGMC Lucknow, after which he also did his PhD and DNB in community medicine. The list of degrees and certificate is not restricted to only this. Apart from this, Sir has more than 60 publications in various national and international journals. Sir is also associated as either editor or associate editor of other eminent journals. I welcome you, sir, for speaking on this very pertinent topic for today's day and age, the effect of advertisement on nutritional behavior. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tarun. And thank you, Dr. Tanu, for giving wonderful presentation on the childhood obesity. Am I loud and clear enough? Tarun, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes.
So as Dr. Tanu stated that there are various reasons which could give rise to childhood obesity. She also has emphasized in one of her slides that behavior of the children is going to play a role in occurrence of the childhood obesity. Now, there comes a question among all of us or in most of the participants, where does this initiative of what to consume comes from? Here, advertisement play a major role. So that's why I have chosen this topic, that is the effect of advertisement on nutritional behavior. So I would like to throw some light on this particular topic. So before moving on to this topic, we will talk about on food industry, what it is and what is the role of this food industry. इसको थोड़ा सा ऊपर कर दे, मेरे वाले उसी से ही अच्छा हो जाए, माउस सही नहीं हो रहा है, मूव नहीं हो रहा है अच्छे से. So India is the world's second largest producer of the food, just next to China. It is one of the world's major food producers, having a huge scope for the international food trade. And it has also got a vast scope for both investors and exporters. And everyone, since each and every country, each and every human being remain interested in the money. So food industry is one of the industry where the food exports in 2019 stood a huge amount, that is rupees 1.28 lakh crores. So you can imagine why everyone is being interested in the food industry. Now, there are certain key facts regarding the advertisement. Why so? Because advertisement is also being linked with that of the obesity or with that of the impacts of foods on our body. As we know that food is essential for a healthy life, while media has also become an essential part of everyone's life now. And I'll show you how both these are connected in subsequent presentation. Now, India has got over 167 million households with television sets, of which over 161 million have got access to cable TV or satellite TV or any other form of the TV by which they used to get information. It also includes 84 million households which are having a DTH subscription. Now, apart from this, there are a number of wireless telecommunications. India is also one of the biggest country who is having highest number of the subscribers, and these subscribers have taken either different type of the service providers such as Reliance Jio or Vodafone or any other company they have taken, but they are utilizing the wireless telecommunication system. Then nowadays, YouTube has also become a wonderful source of information. If you are not being able to find anything or any resource nearby to your place, you can just switch on or go on to the YouTube. At least I can say each and every thing can be find out on the YouTube, whether it is related to food making or whether it is related to surgery or anything else. Since we are being interested here onto the food, so that's why we will talk about of food only. What is the impact of these all advertisement onto the food or impact of these food on our health? Similarly, Facebook user, print newspaper readers, these all are also another variety of the advertisement or any other type of the sending the information to the people. So all these, whatever I have talked about right now, they all also form a rich background for the advertisement. It's not like that, as we have also commonly observed whenever we are going to observe the YouTube without taking the premium subscription, you will come across varieties of advertisement onto the YouTube or any other communication. Now, food and beverages brands in India spent roughly 73 million rupees on online advertisement. And this is the data by the end of 2015. And this was accounting roughly 6.7% of the total online advertisement. It has been expected to rise to $212 million in 2020. those 73 million figures were also in US dollar, not in rupees. So you can imagine how much increase, roughly 4-time increase in spend on the advertisement by all these food and beverages brands. This food industry has also the highest number of the plants which are being approved by the US Food and Drug Administration outside the USA. And therefore, because of huge investment and huge amount of money which has been received by all these companies, there is cutthroat competition among multinational companies on the sale of their food products. And as I had talked in the earlier slide, that there are varieties of forms through which information is being provided to the consumers. And during this seeking the information, we come across varieties of advertisement, out of which some of those advertisements are related with that of the food industry. Multinational companies sometimes in this cutthroat competition try to over advertise their products because of this competition. Now, I would also like to emphasize here certain key facts which are related with that of the advertisement. Now, food advertisers use a varieties of techniques, and these all techniques are being used to convince their consumers to buy their products, either in the form of image or lifestyle or free prices in the cereal box. They also try to show that if you are going to consume their food products, you can enjoy a happier life. I'll show some of the examples in my subsequent presentation. Advertisers use emotional appeal also during their advertisement, food advertisement, to persuade even the most educated audience also to consume products and services. What happens actually because of all this, it is going to limit the reasonable and logical thinking among ourselves. We are going to indulge love with or affection with our kids, who are going to tell us to purchase, or who are going to compel us to purchase a particular food product. This is going to hinder the emotional process and causes people to buy product. Now, what happens actually because of this? In fact, if you'll think deeply, you'll come across, or you will be easily able to understand, slowly and slowly, in order to provide the satisfaction to their kids or children, we are making or inculcating certain nutritional habits, which ultimately is giving rise to the nutritional behavior among the children. Now, what happens in later on, that children are not being able to live, or those things, those foods are going to compel themselves to purchase the same food product again and again, which actually we call it as a nutritional behavior. So I would like to emphasize here on the techniques which are being used in the food advertisement. In fact, there are varieties of techniques which are being utilized by during the time of the food advertisement, but they have got certain drawbacks. In fact, in my again subsequent slides, I would like to emphasize only on to the where the problem comes, because there are not only problem, but there are certain good things about the same as well. But since the topic of today's presentation is what is the impact of food advertisement on nutritional behavior, so in that context, I would like to emphasize here what all are the shortcomings in the same. So sometimes what happened, that only limited information in the advertisement, in the food advertisement, is being provided by the companies. Advertisements give only facts that encourage consumers to buy the products without telling them the whole story. Say, for example, some of the drinks, they are not telling us what is the exact content which is there in the product. So once we are going to consume this, we are not going to bother about what all are the contents. But as a result of increase in the awareness in recent time, we have come to know what is the actual content in this drinks. And once we have come across the exact content, you will be surprised that there has been dramatic decrease in the consumption of that product has been reported. I'm not going to tell you the exact name of that product. You can imagine yourself, but at least here the point to emphasize is that you should know what are the contents which are being provided in the food product before the purchase of that product. Then sometimes what happens that advertisement companies are going to create a positive images among the minds of the people, which again is going to or leading to the formation of the nutritional behavior. And because of all those positive images, what happens, kids or children are going to force their parents to purchase the same products. So an advertisement may use images of the things that people feel positive about that, such as friendship or giving good appearance. And then advertisers hope that the consumer will associate the good feeling with that of the product, which is actually not. There are certain other examples such as beer commercials, where they used to show that you can make a lot of friends as a result of consumption of their product. And also you can make a lot of fun. So these two pictures I have shown here, where you can imagine what kind of the positive images which has been made in the mind of the human beings. In fact, you will also be surprised to know that children, they are very catchy in nature. And in fact, the images which has been shown in the minds of kids, they are going to persist for a very long duration of time. So it has also become very difficult once they are going to set in the minds of the kids. Then also most of the time, those advertisement companies are going to have some endorsement by celebrity, and because of which we also try to think of that we have also become one of the celebrity, and we can also enjoy same as that of those celebrity who are enjoying. But we don't know whether those celebrities are actually utilizing the same product or not. So celebrity figure is used to promote the product. However, we exactly don't know whether they are themselves are utilizing the same or not. Then focuses on the ways the product meets a need for the security or self-esteem. They try to convince the consumers that the product will make them look or feel better, which is actually not. Then some of the advertisement companies, they utilize the scare tactics. They are going to make you scared of some unhealthy means of living, or they are trying to scare you that you will become old or something like that. So scare tactics are also being utilized in order to promote their products. As you can see on the figure or images which I have shown here, this is not only related with that of the food product, but also related to certain other aspects which I am not going to touch, but they are also one of the way by which they are going to make the consumers compelled to buy their products. Then certain false claims are also being made by all these food advertisement company. Say for example, juicy is my mango. There was one ad which was being depicted by the company. Now, juicy is my mango, it is not the thing actually. So once mango is being dissolved into the water, it has to be consumed immediately. How can it is possible that it is going to persist for a long duration of time? And again, very difficult to form this product as well. So ads make certain false claims also, and also it promises that seems too good to be true. But if you are going to say, for example, in the below slide, in the below image, they are going to state that it's consists of full hazelnuts, but actually it is not. Once you will go to the content, you will find that only 0.3% of the hazelnut is there. Rest all is either milk, cream, or skimmed milk in powder form. That is also very low, 7.5% only. Rest all is sugar. So you just, my since to present this presentation or topic is that you should check what you are going to purchase onto the food labels, which is actually the topic of interest of today's webinar. Then there are infomercials also, which is a kind of long form of video or television advertisement that acts as a standalone program to pitch a good or service with a call to action, and that also influence our purchase against the product, purchase for the product. Then fast food. There are plenty of ways by which fast food are also being advertised. They are utilizing again various different kind of the tactics. They also used to state that during your Tinda moments, means leisure moments, you can consume all those fast food, and it has again got a very huge impact on the physical fitness of our body. Now, if you are going to consume those all fast food during the Tinda moments, what happens? You won't feel hungry at the right time, and again you are going to skip your dinner or something else. So it is again have got a huge impact onto the health of our body. So what we have to do in order to control all this, we have to control the advertisement of nutritional product. We need to invest time in learning how to effectively deconstruct this ad and become an informed consumer. It is also important to separate the fact from the fictions in the food advertisement, which is very important, and that could be done at our consumer level. We have to, look for what exact is the content which has been presented by the food product. So in order to control that, there are varieties of measures which we can take. In fact, some of the measures are also being depicted by our earlier presenter. However, there is one regulatory authority which has been constituted by our country in order to to control the sale of these all food products, which is FSSA, that is Food Safety and Standards Act, which has come into existence in 2006. And it was in fact the umbrella of varieties of other acts which were previously utilized in order to control the sale of all these food products, such as PFA Act, which has come for the first time, then FPO, EOP, MMPO, etc., etc. So I'm not going to detail of all these acts, but yes, at least I can say now we are having one agency, or you can say act, through which we are going to regulate the varieties of the food products. So this FSS Act is having a focus onto the regulation which is used to make the companies accountable for their claims on the food products and cater to the interest of the customers. The new rules which has been issued by the FSSAI pertaining to the food advertisement. And then I'm not going into, again, I'm skipping this slide, what does advertisement means actually. However, I would like to emphasize here onto the what is claim. The claim means any representation which is printed, oral, audio, visual form, and states, suggests, or implies that a food has got particular qualities relating to its origin, nutritional property, nature, processing, composition, or otherwise. So when a company is going to claim, we have to testify whether this claim is right or wrong. So these claims could be varieties of form. It could be related to nutrition, where it could be related to the content which are being claimed by the these companies, and FOPL is going to represent that. Then comparative related claim, which is again topic of today's presentation, which will be talked later on by one of our speaker. Then this type, another type of the claim could be non-addition. They also used to claim about the non-addition of the sugar, salt, any other additive or additional conditions. Then health also, sometimes a claim has also been made in respect of the health, whether it is having a physiological role of the nutrient or any other substance which is there into their product. Then there are certain conditional kind of the claim could also be there, whether a food is by its nature high or low or free of a specific content or not. Then prohibited kind of claim there for the use in the prevention, alleviation, or treatment or cure of the diseases, which might be related to that of the food or non-food items as well. So there are certain features of the FSSA, such as claims must be truthful, unambiguous, meaningful, not misleading. And it is not only the responsibility of the regulatory authority, but we should also, check before the purchase of food product, which I'm going to emphasize again and again in my presentation. Then claim shall not encourage or condone excess consumption of a particular food. And there is a very good example which has been recently being set up. In fact, what happens in our this mess, not here, but in some other institute, they were going to present or keep the pastries and other junk food in front, while the thali, which was also available in the same canteen, but they were going to present it behind this counter. So what happens when a hungry person is visiting that canteen? He was just looking at the junk food which has been kept in front of the counter, and it is going to compel the person to purchase the same item because they were not being able to see clearly the thali which was being kept behind. So that was being observed by myself and certain other faculty members. So we have objected on the same. And later on, again, it was found that we have told him to keep the thali and other healthy food in front, and then all these junk food on the backside of the counter. So this was the action which was taken. It was a very small action, but I feel that it has got a great impact onto the health of the individual. So such kind of the initiatives can be taken at other various institutes as well. Claim shall not state or suggest or imply that a balanced and varied diet cannot provide appropriate quantities of the nutrients as required by the bodies. Then where the claim benefit is related to or dependent on the method of preparation of the food, the same shall be provided on the label, which we can check. Then claim shall specify the number of servings of the food per day for the claim benefit, and the claim that a food has certain nutritional or health attributes shall be scientifically substantiated by the validated methods of characterizing or quantifying the ingredient or substance that is the basis for the claim. Then as per the regulation, food business cannot use the word phrases such as natural, fresh, original, traditional, authentic, genuine, or real kind of words, which has been commonly utilized by the companies while advertising their food products. Where it is not feasible to avoid the using such words, in such cases, a disclaimer is not less than 3 millimeter size should be given onto the appropriate place. And this is the only a brand name or trademark and does not represent its true nature. This disclaimer should be presented onto the label of the food. Advertisement shall also not undermine the importance of the healthy lifestyle because they cannot be substituted with the varieties of food product. We have to go for the adoption of the other healthy lifestyles. Then advertisement for food or beverages shall not be promoted or portrayed as a meal replacement. Claim in advertisement shall be consistent with the information on the label of the food or beverages. No advertisement shall be made for food product which is deceptive to the consumer. So all these features have been given onto the given in the FSSA. Any person, including a third party who advertise or is a party to the publication of any misleading advertisement, there is also being provision of the fine, which could be up to 10 lakh, or as per the section of the 53 of Food Safety and Standards Act 2006, they can also suffer from the jail for 6 months. But still, we have got so many other challenges ahead, such as setting of the food safety standards, which are though we have established, but there are certain modification or again rectification are required. Traceability, recall, and emergency response system has not been established, which requires to be established. Then inform, educate, and communicate to the consumer. Food safety management system is required to be set up. An effective foodborne disease surveillance system, which is there, but still we need to strengthen the same as well. Then capacity building varieties of areas, which is being related to that of the food industry or advertisement. And of course, we require certain research and development in the area where we could, restrict the unhealthy food among the consumers. or we could also develop a healthy kind of food for the consumers. So with this, once again, I would like to thank our whole team who has worked day and night for the success of this webinar. Thank you so much. Tarun, if we have time, I wish to show a small this video which is related with that of the advertisement, if we have time. Yes, otherwise, we can move to the next speaker, presentation or next speaker.
Yes, sir. We have 2 to 3 minutes. You can show, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. एक इसमें एडवर्टीज वो होगा, वो देखो वर्चुअल 3, वो देखो वो इसमें है ये FOPL खोलो। हाँ ये नहीं, ये नहीं है यार, वीडियो था कोई एक, इसके ऊपर वाला, जस्ट इसके ऊपर। हाँ, इसको 3 मिनट 47 सेकंड तक। Tarun, is it visible?
No, sir.
No, sir. Currently not.
Just wait. अभी चलाना नहीं, हमें बताना जब चलाओ। So this is a small clip which I have tried to show it here. How advertisements are being made lucrative, and they are going to compel us to purchase. Actually, the food is not like that, but advertisement has made it in such a way that it seems to be lucrative in nature and which compels the people to purchase the product. So please have a look on this small clip. Start to you.
Thank you, sir. As rightly highlighted by you, in this digital age, where marketing is everywhere, it is pertinent to understand the consumer behavior. Now, for the next session, I would like to invite Dr. Ranjita Kumari. Ma'am is an additional professor, Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Rishikesh. Ma'am has teaching and research experience of more than 15 years. She has more than 60 research articles in various national and international journals. With maturity of her research is either directly or indirectly related to adolescents and nutritional aspects. She has also organized webinars on the role of indigenous food items in health and disease last year. This year also, she will be organizing a week-long activity on National Nutrition Week. I welcome you, ma'am, to speak on the topic of front of package labeling and how FOPL can help bring down the burden of childhood obesity. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tarun. So I'll start with my presentation. Are you able to see the slides? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so a very good afternoon to all of you. So the stage is rightly set for my presentation. That is the need of FOPL and what it is. We've been talking about it. Dr. Pradeep has been conducting a lot of webinars on this. So by this time, most of us are already aware of FOPL. For those who are not aware, I'll be discussing about what it is and how FOPL, that is front of package labeling, can curb childhood obesity. So this was a comprehensive national nutrition survey which was conducted in 2016 to 18, and it has brought out some really important aspects about childhood nutrition, and it has highlighted that nutrition is the best investment. The cost of malnutrition is really high, and we are now facing the double burden of malnutrition. So we have obesity and overnutrition on one side, coupled with undernutrition. So we are struggling with both the aspects now. Initially, we were struggling only with undernutrition. Now we have other side of the coin also. And once these overnutrition, it gains certain momentum, it is really difficult for it to control, because then it takes time to control the overnutrition. So that is the bad thing about it. So this is a CNSS data, which shows that the overweight among adolescents, it has been increasing, and the percentages are quite high in certain states. So we can see Tamil Nadu, Goa, they are having adolescents to the range of 13 to 14.4 with overweight and obesity, overweight. India has a percentage of 4.8%, which is pretty high among adolescents. So that is, adolescence is a stage when we are maximum active. So the activity levels and our BMR and all is really high. So at that time, if we are struggling with overweight, it is very imperative that in the coming years, the obesity and all, and the metabolic syndrome and its consequences are going to set in. So the percentage of overweight and high waist circumference also has been shown to be increasing throughout the country. The key findings of CNSS has shown that there is a growing risk of NCDs among children as well as adolescents, and there is a high percentage of pre-diabetics as well as diabetics. Total cholesterols have been found in 3% of people. These groups, 26% of them have had low HDL and high serum glycerides, as well as 7% were at the risk of CKD. Apart from that, 5% adolescents were classified as having hypertension. So this is quite a striking finding, and it's really concerning for all of us. Keeping all this in mind, WHO had already provided a 5x5 framework for tackling NCDs. So these are the 5 common non-communicable diseases that we are having. And the 5 modifiable factors that we see around us, which can control these 5 diseases, are of this 4 can be handled at an individual level. So unhealthy diet, we are responsible. Physical inactivity, it's totally within our control. Alcohol and tobacco consumption is also within a person's control. Despite the presence of these 4 modifiable risk factors within our control, we are still struggling with these NCDs, which are topping the list of disabilities, which are topping the list of mortality and other consequences. So there are a lot of factors. Dr. Tanu has already highlighted the factors which have been associated with overweight or obesity in children. Overweight in mothers, rapid weight gain, followed by acute malnutrition early in life. Then poor functioning of food systems, health, living, work, and social environments, socioeconomic status, and then to top all of this, there is a nutrition transition which is happening. Again, Dr. Bhola has already highlighted this, how we are moving, how we are getting drifted for various packaged foods and various other food items because of advertisements and all. So we are rushing towards something which is not natural, which is unnatural, which are packaged, which are easy to eat. And all these foods that we are having are full of energy and they are nutritionally poor foods. So, and coupled with the more sedentary lifestyles, it makes a very complicated milieu for all the non-communicable diseases. Factors which lead to overconsumption of ultra-processed foods in children are many. So there are working and guilty parents, screen addicts. Children have money in their pocket, so they can buy. So then there is advertisements which they keep on seeing through various medias. There is a pestering power from infancy. They know how to demand. Grandparents are there who yield to pressures easily. There is now home delivery which is available. The schools now don't focus much on the various other things. They focus more on academics. Everyone is willing to excel in things. There is a junk sale at strategic points around school. So we have food items which are ready to eat, which are ultra processed, which are available throughout, all around the school. So there is a tobacco ban law around the schools, but there is no ban on sale of junk food around the school. So maybe we can think over it. Home is no different from a school canteen. Home is full of packaged foods. So hardly get home cooked meals. The child misses on breakfast, lunches alone because parents are off to work. And then whatever is ready, whatever is available, he munches on it. Foods are mandatory part of any celebration. We never do any celebration without food. If we are sad, we eat food. If we are happy, we eat food. So it's all about food. India is a food loving country, more so. And then there is a peer support. So people in a group, they eat together. Also, there is non-availability of unprocessed or minimally processed foods. So we hardly have the accessibility is poor. I was telling this today, I was discussing it with my students. I was telling in Delhi, I went from one the whole metro station and I couldn't find a vendor selling fruits, but I could see at least 20 joints which were selling burger, which were selling pizzas, which were selling various other things. So finding a fruit vendor was difficult in the capital state of Delhi for me as a personal experience as compared to any other food joint. Maybe it's because people don't like to buy fruits. Maybe it's because it's not just it's not beneficial to people. So people in the sense, it's not beneficial for this government to let people just open their vendor's shop of fruits and all. Other MNCs, they pay higher as compared to a small street vendor. So these are the various factors which have led to we were talking about the nutrition facts. Dr. Tanu had highlighted this. So this is just a compilation. This is not my slide. These slides I have taken from various other speakers whom I'll acknowledge at the end of my presentation. So if you see the nutrition facts, the calories of a burger plus the fries, French fries, this is a common combo that people order, the children order while they are off. So total amount of calories that a person gets from just this much is 2000 calories, which is a day's calorie, the whole day's calorie requirement of a child. He requires 22,000 calories and he'll get it from just one meal. What he'll do for the rest of the day, I don't know. That is obviously overeating. The fats are excess, saturated fat almost double, carbohydrates almost okay, but they are refined. They are not healthy. Sugars are pretty high, almost 5 times, and fiber content very less. Protein is kind of equal. So if a person wants to consume this or burn this out, he'll have to do a 4.5 hours of running at the rate of 5 miles per hour, or 8.5 hours of walk at the rate of 2.5 miles per hour, which we normally don't do because we just sit and eat. So all this gets accumulated and it causes the obesity. There is a Nova food classification which has been provided. So there is an unprocessed or minimally processed food, which is available and we used to have it in our childhood, and which still forms a staple diet of a lot of people. But we are moving from this unprocessed food towards the processed culinary ingredients. So these are obtained from minimally processed foods and used to season and cook and create culinary dishes. Then we have processed foods, or these are unprocessed or minimally processed foods or culinary dishes which have been added or processed using culinary ingredients such as bottled vegetables, meats and salt solution, fruits and syrup, candied, bread, cheeses, purees or paste, etc. And then you have this final, the ultra processed food. So these are food products which are derived from foods or parts of food. And then cosmetic food additives which are not used in culinary are added to it so that it becomes more appealing. So a lot of food items that we are surrounded today with are actually ultra processed foods. And if you see the breast milk substitutes, infant formulas, cookies, ice creams, shakes, ready to eat meals, soft drinks, other sugary drinks, hamburgers, nuggets, lot of products that we consume on a daily basis are now ultra processed. Okay. So what are these ultra processed foods? They include all these, and they typically have many additives that enhance our desire to eat more of them. So we don't get a satiety after we eat it. We feel like having it more. So we eat, our tummy is full, but we don't have a feeling of satiety. So our satiety, the brain centers are not stimulated because of it. And we have a urge of having more. Also, they use refined carbohydrates and they are nutritionally poor. Ultra-processed foods, they are designed to create products that are highly profitable. Obviously, it's run by MNC, so they want profit out of it. It's an investment, it's a business. It is convenient to eat, so people don't have to work. So while they are working, so there's a concept of working lunch. So people like to eat and do their work. So we are so obsessed with work. So it makes it convenient because we want to earn more. And then it's hyper palatable. So we have an addiction towards it. So those are the characteristics of an ultra processed food, which is taking us away from a natural food and making us all obese. Then this ultra processed foods, they're often described as food-like as they contain so many chemicals found inside complex ingredients, along with excessive added sugar and all. And the grains that are used are normally highly refined. So US National Health Institute of Health, it actually did a study and where it showed that a person so they enrolled people who acted as their own control. So this was a crossover kind of a study. So where people were given 500 kilocalories per day with, they were given ultra processed foods, and people got extra 500 calories when they consumed the ultra processed foods, comprised mainly of additional carbohydrates and saturated fats. And they had similar protein from both diets. Major shift was ultra processed food, which was very energy dense. In 2 weeks, there was a gain of 0.9 kg body weight, whereas the other group, they had a loss of 0.9 kg body weight with unprocessed diet. So just 2 weeks, we have a gain of weight of 1 kg with ultra processed food. In just 2 weeks, there was an increase in selected biomarkers also, and it pointed out 2 mechanisms, that is hyperpalatability and higher energy density. So that is the status of this. IAP, National Consultative Group, has given this new classification also, which is the junk food, which includes junk food, the ultra processed food, the nutritionally inappropriate food, which we sometimes cook at home also. So if it is highly, it has high sugar or salt content or made up of recycled oil, so then it becomes nutritionally inappropriate. Or the caffeinated, colored, carbonated beverages, if we keep having it regularly. And S stands for sugar sweetened beverages. So this junks is found all around the schools. It is found all around in our homes. It is found all around the markets. Only thing is now we need to understand what is junks and what is ultra processed. So this is, most foods are high in sugar, sodium and saturated fat. What is healthy? How much should be the limit of sodium, sugar and fat in a healthy food? So sodium, it is said, so if the sodium content in milligram and if the energy content of that product is equal to or higher than 1:1, it is considered excessive. So if there is 2000 milligram in a food product and it gives 2000 calories, it has got a very high sodium. If it gives 200 calories and there is 200 milligram of sodium, it has high sodium. And if we see the natural foodstuffs, so I was referring to this NIN book of nutritive values, and I found all the natural food stuffs, they have 360 calories, 400 calories, or 250 calories, and the sodium content will be 10 milligram, 20 milligram, 30 milligram. So it never reaches 1:1. So that is, while the processed foods, the ultra processed foods that we have, they have the ratio of 1:1 also. So it's that high. So because they'll have salt also and they'll have preservatives also. So the sodium content reaches quite high. The product is considered excessive in terms of free sugar if the calorie that is derived from free sugar is equal to or higher than 10% of the total calories, total energy. And for a sugar sweetened beverage, the threshold is even lower, 5%. If it's beyond 5%, it is high in free sugars and we should not be having such food items. Total fat, similarly, if it is higher, equal to or higher than 30% of the total energy of that product, we should not be having it. It is excessive. Okay. So whether we make it at home or we take it from outside, if these are the criteria that are being fulfilled, we should avoid using those things. Excessive in saturated fat, similarly, if the saturated fat content comprises the calories that we obtain from saturated fat is equal to or higher than 10% of the total energy, it is excessive. So these are the cutoffs that we should look as learned people. But then we as learned people, we can look at it, but the common persons, they cannot look. So we need something which is more simplified and which is more easier to understand. The trends in the package of junk food sales has been increasing. So China has increased by leaps and bounds. India is not falling behind. We are also increasing our capacity. We should not fall behind. That is what we think. And we are increasing our junk food consumption substantially of various food items, confectionery, savory snacks, sweet snacks, cakes and pastries. So we are fond of it. We have been using it very commonly now. To reduce this, there are various methods that can be done. Obviously, behavior change is one thing. Then there are other aspects that we need to work upon based on different factors. But on a global level or on a marketing level, what we could do or what could have been done was to label it appropriately. And Codex Alimentarius Commission, so the Codex Alimentarius Commission or the Codex, it identifies 3 types of nutritional labeling that should be done so that we can read it appropriately if you want to, or we can understand what is the content of the packet. And 70 countries have had the mandatory packaging or nutritional labeling, which has been there, not the front of labeling, but the nutritional labeling, that is nutritional information that has to be provided. So the Codex Alimentarius Commission, it identifies 3 types of labeling, that is nutrient declaration, nutrition and health claims, and supplementary nutrition information, which includes front of package labeling. So these are the 3 labels which can be provided on a food item. And this is a common nutrient declaration which is present in most of the food items that we take over the counter, like so what we purchase. Now, we conducted a small exercise with our MBBS students during their clinical postings, where we wanted to help them understand what is the content of this food item. And we could realize that they were finding a lot of difficulty, even as medical students, to interpret whether what to choose or what not to choose. So I asked them to compare 2-3 brands of biscuits with chips, what they commonly eat. So I asked them to bring their packets. And when they compared and they saw, they were confused. They couldn't decide. They asked me, ma'am, which one should we be purchasing? So I told them you should not be purchasing any of these. But then if you want to compare it with the cost and all, the content and all, you'll find that it is very costly. And the content wise, it is nutritional wise, it is horrible. It is not, it's very nutritionally poor. So interpretation of this nutrition fact is very difficult. So it is standardized listing of nutrient content of a food or beverage, and it is usually positioned on the back side of the package. And Codex recommended that nutrient declarations are mandatory on food packages. And around 70 countries do it as of now. Nutrition information at the back of the pack is not consumer friendly. We cannot interpret it. It's very difficult. For example, sodium is 470 milligram, which is 20% of the daily value. Now, what is the daily value? We do not know. So it is different for different groups of people. So it's different for a male, daily value is different for a male. It is different for a female. It is different for adolescent, a child, and various others. So for child, it is quite low. So what should he be interpreting out of this is very difficult. So it's not easy. It is difficult to see. It is difficult to understand, and it has too many numbers which you don't understand at all. So it requires complex calculation also, and therefore it is very difficult. Therefore, front of package labeling was promoted, and the agencies thought that front of package labeling would refer to a nutrition labeling system that are presented on the front of food packages, and it provides a summary so that we can understand it better. So they're presented on the front of food packages in the principal field of vision, not in one corner or somewhere below. And it can be applied across the packaged retail food supply. There should be underpinning nutrient profile model, which should be there on the front of package. And also it should be simple and graphic information which should be provided. So that is what is front of package labeling, which should provide some information about the nutrient content in a simple format, in a graphic format on the front of food package. so that it's visible and seen. The scope is, it was first introduced in 1980s, late 1980s by NGOs and some government agencies. And the priority focus is actually the packaged, manufactured or processed food that are required to carry a nutrient declaration. Some food items are exempted from it, so it's not appropriate or required for foods that are specially manufactured for infants or young children, because they have a strict composition. So infant formula or the young children formula, they'll have a required composition and it cannot be changed, and therefore FOPL is not applicable for it. Then it's not also applicable for any item which has very low nutritional contribution, such as herbs, spices, tea, coffee, condiments, etc. So they have no nutritional role much. They are for taste and flavor, so their FOPL is not applicable. Also for alcoholic beverages, it's not applicable. So these are exempted from the FOPL. There are various principles which WHO highlights for FOPL systems. So it should be aligned with the national public health policy. There should be a single system which should be developed, and there should not be variations within states and other things. So a single system, mandatory, it should be mandatory. There should be a monitoring and review process, and also it should be transparent and easily accessible. So those are the overarching principles of FOPL systems. There are other principles for implementation and development also, which says that government should have a multi-sectoral stakeholder engagement. It should be interpretive. That's very important. It should provide a summary. It should not provide all the details, as we say कि वो पूरा पहाड़ ले आके नहीं रख देना है और उसमें से संजीवनी ढूंढने के लिए छोड़ना नहीं है. So it is, the person has to find out the sanjeevani and give it to the person. So agencies have to bring out that factor and give it to the person who's consuming it. So it should be interpretive rather than a detailed one. It should be understandable to most of the people, everyone who's consuming it. The nutritional criteria and food components should be there in detail. And it should allow comparisons between two items and also two different products of the same category, so that people can make appropriate choices as to what is good and what is not good. So these are the countries which have already implemented FOPL. Few have announced it and they are in the phase of developing their policies. These are a few countries which have voluntary government-led FOPL which have been there. Advantages are consumer friendly, it's noticeable, it's known to be better understood, can encourage healthy eating habits, and there is this. These are the steps of development of FOPL. So there is a contextual analysis, then there are other processes which involve stakeholders, and finally you select the FOPL system format and also implement it and see whether it is working or not. Coming to the types of FOPL, now this is very important. There are two basic types. So you have nutrient specific types, that is non-interpretive, and you have a summary system types, which is interpretive. So you can make, just by seeing that particular logo or that particular thing, a person, a consumer can find out whether we should consume it or not consume it. So these are the two basic types which are there. So nutrient specific and summary systems. And these are various subtypes which are there, which I'll discuss one by one. So nutrient specific, you have the facts upfront label where you have in the front, there are different. So these 5 categories, the amount is given as per the adult's guideline daily amount. So this is an example of GDA, which is there, a type of guideline daily amount scheme. Displays foods or beverages calories, saturated fat, sodium and sugar per serving. And manufacturers who take this scheme can also have an option to display up to 2 positive nutrients which are there in their products. And if there is a limited space, the manufacturer can just put up the calories per serving. So that is one of it. Another, the characteristics is complex. Complex numbers are there. It is difficult to understand, often monochrome, no direction to judge or decide. The person cannot decide whether he should be taking this or not. It's kind of nutrient description that is given on the back only. It's a concised version which is given on the front. So it's got less value, addition and space utilization. It's been implemented in Thailand and other countries. So often favored by industry because it helps them more, not the consumer. And consumer is often misled and left confused by design and quite intentionally. Then you have a traffic light system, labeling system, which is color coded and more interpretive than GDS schemes. And they usually display a ranking. So they'll say that it is low fat, another has low saturated fat, it has high sugars, medium salt. So it's got a ranking which is there. Levels are assigned color codes of red, amber, green respectively. And some instances, manufacturers may use the traffic light and GDS symbol in combination. So it has percentages also, and it has low and high rankings also. So combination might also be there. Individual traffic light symbols also might be there. Then we have the characteristics is actually it's negative nutrients. So if you see this, one is white, another is green, two are green, one is red, another is yellow. Now the person does not know whether he should be taking this or not taking this because it is high or low, whatever. So complex numbers, again, it's not very interpretive, better than GDA, but not as better as summary systems. Then you have summary systems which use an algorithm to provide an overall nutritional score. So it can be binary, where it is just a tick, so that makes it healthy. So choices food program logo, which displays a check mark on food package if the food meets specified nutrient criteria. So a normal consumer, he sees this tick mark and he says, oh, good, I can consume it, it's good. So this is quite interpretive, useful. Then there is a keyhole symbol, again, which is displayed on healthier products used in Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. Then there are graded systems, star systems, guiding star systems, which displays a ranking of 0 to 3 stars. So it's 3 star, it is good, 0 star, it is not good. So that way. Neuval system, again, from 1 to 100, there's a nutrition score which is provided in it. So all that systems are occurring for the summary systems. So summary systems does not isolate specific ingredients. There is a graded assessment. And overall rating or score of product may be high if, say, dietary fiber is high, but sugar is also high. So it might be it might create some confusion, but it is better than the interpretive. So it has to be used as complement. Such labels, though, may help pick the better option among brands, but may not discourage consumption of foods high in fat, sugar, and salt. So that is the characteristic. So if we compare both, nutritive system, nutrient specific warning labels, they are better. There are no numbers. There is use of colors and symbols, make it easy to understand, such as in Chile, this is used. In Israel, these are the symbols which are used. So it tells if it is there, we should not be using it. So if the symbol is there on some food product, people know they should not be using it. So it reflects warnings suited to transient language and literacy barriers, and there's emerging evidence in favor of these nutrients. FOPL in India, I think Dr. Neeraj will discuss it in detail. So these are the issues which are still lingering on: design, nutrients, thresholds, timelines, and it's been some time. So there's an issue of design, which one to use, which one not to use. So this is GDS system, which is people are promoting. So traffic light plus GDS system, which is what is being promoted, but it's still not being decided. And if you see the thresholds, you can see 50 grams of sugar is the threshold, which according to NIN, we should be having 25 grams of sugar per day. Whereas the companies will keep a threshold which is higher so that they can overcome those margins. So similarly for fat, it is 67 grams. Whereas NIN will prescribe 25 grams of fat per day. So the thresholds are kept higher so that companies can bypass all those labelings. So again, this is complicated. Design, this is the design which is generally preferred and should be preferred. Then there are issues of nutrients. You have different nutrients which are there, salt, sugar, fat, and various other nutrients. So trans fat and all. So these are the issues which have been lingering on. Similarly, mentioning of salt. So the manufacturers, they want that sodium should be mentioned, whereas people want that salt should be mentioned because Common man does not know what is sodium. What is the role of sodium? We as learned people, we might be knowing, but a common person does not know what is sodium. So mentioning salt will help the consumers as compared to sodium. And the thresholds have to be written down. So that's more convenient. So that is, these are the issues which are still in discussion. Similarly, added sugar. Now added sugar cannot be differentiated from total sugar. So whether the added sugar should be written on the FOPL or total sugar, that is again a controversial thing which is there. So then we have total fat versus saturated fat. Whether the saturated fat should be written or not written, because all provide same calories. So these are the few questions that FSCI is finding answer to before we finally reach out to the design of FOPL. Similarly, there's an issue of thresholds. So what threshold should we take? Whether it should be NIN thresholds, whether it should be WHO thresholds, which thresholds we should be taking. The companies, the manufacturers, they will want a higher threshold. As government agencies who are enforcing all this, we will want a threshold which is appropriate. So that fight, that coming out to the common consensus is a issue right now. So children, they'll have lower threshold as compared to adults. So even if we use the adult threshold, which is prescribed by NIN, children would need an even lesser threshold. So those things have to be worked upon before we finally arrive to this. Issue of timelines is there. It's been almost 10 years since FOPL was recommended in India, and the law is required very soon. So implementation time should be given as soon as possible. So coming to effect of FOPL on childhood obesity, there have not been much studies studying the effect directly of FOPL on the obesity in childhood. But there have been effects because FOPL is quite new. Countries are still in the phase of implementing FOPL. Few countries which have implemented FOPL, they have studied whether FOPL has led to increase in purchase, has led to better understanding or other things. But studies on the effect of obesity as such, they're not existing much. So FOPL has made it more easily identifiable. It's more easily, people can assess levels of nutrients. They allow consumers to determine which of the two products is easier. So that is all the benefit of FOPL. It's more easily comparable in terms of their healthiness. Those studies have documented. So this is all from a meta-analysis that has been published for the effects of FOPL on understanding of labels. And similarly, on the reported use of labels and all, there have been studies which have shown that the FOPL has influenced the purchases of this. There has been this Chile experience of FOPL, which is there, and where it was mandatory that manufacturers mention high in on the front of package in black and white. And it was mandatory, and it has led to changes of the content also. It has been led to reformulation of content of various products in terms of their total energy content. And also they have changed the front of package labeling. So this is how it appears. So it has excess of sugar maybe, which is printed high in black and white on the front of package labeling, which inhibits people from using it. Also, the mascots which were there on various packaged food items have been removed so that children are not, they don't get influenced by it. So these are the things which have been done, and the results have been quite encouraging, and children have started realizing that they should not be consuming such food items. So they'll say that I don't want to eat it because there is a black logo, my teacher won't accept it. So now the children have started demanding more healthier products, which is important. So on a countrywide level, the purchase has gone down by 23.7%. The high sweetened fruit beverages has gone down, and other products also. And this fall has been larger as compared to when the taxes were levied. So Chile has put in taxes also, but the reduction was not so high as compared to when FOPL was introduced, and the taxes have been the reductions in purchases have been higher as compared to the taxes. So that has been the effect of it. So people must be warned about both packaged and fast food through noticeable warning symbols. It is easy to notice, interpret, and enables consumer to identify unhealthy foods. It also helps transcend the literacy and language barriers. So it should be simple to understand. Interpretive symbols are better. That is, as a country, we should be getting to it as quickly as possible. The ultimate goal is to use multiple approaches. This is just one of the approach. Changing nutrition behavior is very challenging. So despite all labels and everything, as learned people, we hardly look at nutrition labels. We generally purchase what we like to eat rather than what is there, seeing the content. So all these measures and together will lead to healthy eating. Long way to go, but still step by step, if we start, we'll be able to achieve the goal. So individual behavior change along with these measures would help us reach to the final goal of healthy eating and a healthy nation. So these are the references. I have derived slides from PPTs of a lot of other colleagues. So I thank them all for their letting me take the slides. So thank you so much. That's all from my side.
Thank you, ma'am, for the enlightening the audience on the concept of front of package labeling and how it can reduce the obesity burden. Before we move ahead to our next session, one acknowledgement needs to be shared that our previous speaker, Dr. Bholanath, played a video. The video credit goes to YouTube channel 5 Minutes Craft. So now, moving towards our last scientific session of the day, I would call upon Dr. Neeraj Pawar. He's an assistant professor, Department of Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Raebareli. Sir has been keen interest in non-communicable diseases and childhood nutrition. He has more than 20 research publications to his credit. All the funded researches he is involved were primarily focused on childhood nutrition. He has been resource person for multiple state level trainings of medical officers on non-communicable diseases in state of Madhya Pradesh. Sir will be talking about the research evidences on front of package labeling and what is India's current stand on front of package labeling. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tarun, for the kind introduction. Let me share my slide.
अटक गया सर।
लैपटॉप हैंग हो गया।
Sorry for the technical delay. Sir will be continuing soon.
I hope the presentation is visible. Tarun, please confirm that the presentation is visible.
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. So a very good afternoon to all of you. There was some technical glitch. We'll be starting now. Hopefully everybody is having a great knowledge boosting session, and more importantly, a thought-provoking session on FOPL. It's a topic that is very thought-provoking in itself. And what I'm trying to cover today is the ground level evidence that we have on FOPL and what is the country's initiative. So moving ahead, as you can see, there's many evidence on front of package labeling. Around more than 14,000 articles that is indexed in PubMed, and majority of the research has been done in the past decade. Today, what we'll do is to triangulate the evidence that we have on various aspects, starting from consumer attention. It is the first and the foremost thing for the behavior change. Then we'll try to know about the consumer perception on FOPL, whether they will be accepting of the FOPL or not, and which is the best system for our country. And at last, we'll explore what is the current stand of our country with regards to FOPL. Now, as you can see here, one of the stalwarts in the field of information and technology, the CEO of Microsoft, has said that it is not the computing power that is scarce nowadays, but the true scarce commodity is human attention. And he's not just stating this fact out of the blue. There is evidence to back it up. So a research that was done by Microsoft people in 2013, they had found out that the human attention span has decreased from 12 seconds in 2000 to 8 seconds in 2013. And imagine the status now. In fact, what they have found out is that humans today have the attention span which is lower than a goldfish who can focus on an object and task for 9 seconds. Now, what does this imply? This implies that we don't have enough window to grab the consumer's attention. And with this small window of 8 seconds, this is the kind of label that we have at present. On top of it, there are other barriers to cope up with, like language barrier, literacy barrier, nutrition, particularly the nutrition and health literacy barrier, and the want and the felt need of the customers. So this becomes a daunting task. Now, how to proceed? Furthermore, if you see, the researchers on neuroscience and human cognition have suggested that human brains are wired to focus on the crux of the matter rather than looking at detailed fact. So what to do? Whether this will work or this will work is the question that we need to answer. Now, many studies have been done on consumer perception. I'm just quoting a few of the studies, and all of the study unanimously suggested that. Is there any issue? Is there any issue with the audio? Okay. So as I was stating that many studies have been done on consumer perception, and all the studies unanimously suggested that front of package labeling is better than the back of package labeling. Even the consumers have told that FOPL helped guide them healthier product choices. Even a survey in 14 Indian states on consumer perception about the front of package label, it found out that majority of the respondents reported that it would be useful to have the nutrition label on the front of pack rather than back of the pack. Another key information that is displayed here is that the packaged food and beverages consumption has increased to a tune of 91% in our country. That is an alarming figure. Now, what will be the ideal FOPL then? First, it should have the ability to grab consumer attention and in a very quick time, as you already seen. And consumers should be able to process that information, understand, rate, and use that information so that they have impact on the purchasing decision. And what will be our ultimate goal is to bring about the behavior changes that the burden of the NCD is reduced. So we have so many choices, as Ranjita ma'am has highlighted. The nutrient specific systems are there. The summary indicator systems are there. What to choose? Let us see what evidence we have. So as ma'am has already stated, there are two primary type of FOPL labels. First is interpretative and second is informative. In informative, there will be numbers, facts and figures. In interpretative, there will be symbols representing whether the decision has to be taken or not. And if you see in between, there are certain labels which are hybrid types. So many researches have been done. Australia has adopted a hybrid health star rating system. Colored GDA system is adopted by some other country. A recent research in 2020 has highlighted that simplified FOPL version is more effective than the hybrid ones. So with this in mind, the options that we have now is the interpretative form or the informative form. What to choose among them? Now, many researchers that they have highlighted that the interpretative elements has shown to have a clear judgment, and recommendations are there that they are more useful compared to the informative forms. As you can see, there are two interpretative forms that are highlighted in this slide. One is the multiple traffic light system that is adopted by UK, and the Chile system, that is the black octagon that Ranjita ma'am has already highlighted. Now, among these, which is the best? What the evidence says. So one randomized controlled trial was done in Brazil. What they did was they used the same food packages and different labels in different arms of the trial. And then they compared. And what they found out is that warning label had significantly more favorable overall opinion with regards to visibility, attention, credibility, and ease of use of these labels. So there is an evidence in the form of a trial that warning labels are better. Let us see the evidence on the ground. So another study from our country, it is a five-arm RCT, 4 tests and 1 control. As you can see in the figure, the barcode one is the control one. Around 3,000 adults participated from 6 Indian states, and it's a recent study, January to March 2022. Now, this particular study highlighted 2 important points. First is that all FOPL helped consumers. All FOPL are better than the back of package labeling. And among the FOPL, the warning labels is the optimal FOPL to achieve the goals of informing the consumers. Another study, that is a cross-sectional survey from our country, including 14 Indian states, highlighted the same important thing, that warning labels are the most preferred food labels, then followed by the multiple traffic light system. So what we are doing is that we are trying to narrow down the evidence and look for the best label. This is the warning label, which is clearly mentioning that high saturated fat content is there in the food that where it is displayed. Now, some more international evidence, voluntary system, including the UK traffic light system and the Australia Health Star system, have shown that any impact on food purchasing and very small impact on reformulations. Now, 2 of the important things that are being highlighted here is that, one, that at the level of the consumer, the impact on purchasing that is there, and second, that the impact on the industry people. Okay, another important evidence from the Chile is that, which is very contrasting to this one, is that the warning label comprising of the black octagon covering around 10% of the main face of the label is a better system, and there is evidence to support this. One of the research, that is non-experimental research from the Chile, has found out that a proportion of unhealthy food and drinks in the market has decreased after the law was implemented. It has decreased from 51% to 44%. Another thing that has happened is that from the industry side, what they did was, in long run, what happened was the quantity of the sugar and the sodium found in the products post implementation were below the threshold levels. So what it means that in long run, it will also have a say on the behavior of the industries, and they will, because it's a a demand and supply kind of an industry. If the demand is low for the unhealthy foods, the industry will start producing healthy foods. So in long run, this will also help for the production of the healthy foods. So that is also one of the key aim of implementation of FOPL. Now, in the background, something called as the WHO nutrient profile model that works, because we need cutoffs to label a food as high in sugar, high in salt, or low in sugar and low in salt. So these are the many models that are being displayed here. Our country, even the FSSAI has recommended the Southeast Asian Region Organization model, which is very similar to the Pan American Health Association model. And there is evidence to back that up. One of the study that is done in our country, an exploration of more than 30,000 food products in our country and tested with more than 10,000 Indian products, have found out that 68% of the food and beverages would have at least one high in level warning. There was another study that was done from the industry side, which suggested 96% of the foods in India would have at least one warning label. Now, this is a conflicting evidence. The industry people are telling that 96% will have a warning label compared to a study which is highlighted here, only 68%. If you go into the background information of it, if you see the previous study, only 1,300 participants in that study. Also, industry very smartly only included those products which were expected to have a high label. So again, the information can be misleading. We need to go into the details how it has been portrayed, because industry people were telling the FSSAI that since almost all the products are getting the label, this particular model doesn't fit our country. But as it is reflected from a very large sample study, that the results are very different. Now, this Ranjita ma'am has already highlighted. The journey began in 2013 with recommendations from FSSAI to formulate a committee expert group on strengthening the nutrient labeling. More committees, more recommendations, and nothing on the ground. Even the newspaper highlights the same, that journey to nowhere. And meanwhile, this is happening. There is another thing that is happening, which is highlighted on the right side, is that the prevalence of overweight and obesity has increased by 3% among women and about 4% among men. And one of the background prevalence that actually contribute to the adult prevalence in long run is the prevalence of overweight in children, that has increased from 2.1% to 3.4% in NFHS 5. Another thing that has increased during that time when we were just watching and not doing anything was the use of packaged junk food. So as it is very evident that indecisiveness sometimes can be very catastrophic. Now, what is India's current stand? In a meeting in February 2022, the FSSAI decided to adopt the health star ratings, which gives product half-star rating to 5-star rating in its draft regulation of front of package labeling. The decision was based on the recommendations of the study that the FSSAI commissioned in September 2021. And another important thing to highlight in this the meeting was that the FOPL implementation could be made voluntary for a period of 4 years. Now, till now, whatever we have discussed, that the regulations should be mandatory, and we have already known the evidence that the warning labels are the best. Nothing of that sort is reflected in this meeting. Now, what are the, so let us see what the study, the Ahmedabad study that the FSSAI has commissioned has to offer. It was a big study among more than 2 lakh participants randomly allocated into 6 groups. Again, a positive point for this study. Face-to-face interviews, which highlight that it was a good study. Respondents from all the country, all across the country participated, which ensure the representativeness of the study. But what are the findings? The finding is that health star rating along with the warning label are highest in preference in terms of ease of understanding, identification, reliability, and influence. So here also, this particular study also highlight the importance of warning label, but along with health star rating. Now, here's the catch. To highlight the importance of health star star rating, what they did was they did some additional test on some populations. Population like females, we know females have a greater say on the grocery shopping. Those with shopping responsibility, those who were previously looking at the labels, those who were not at all knowing about the labels. So those are the additional groups that were included. And in those additional groups, what they highlighted was that health star rating performed the best. Yeah, so we need to know that this particular study also highlighted that warning labels is the best. And sometimes misinterpretation of a research, a very good quality research, can be catastrophic when it is recommended to the regulatory body of a country. So what are the experts concerned with the health star rating? The health star rating system was adopted in some other countries. We have already discussed Australia, New Zealand, but has not resulted in any meaningful behavior change even after 8 years of implementation. It was implemented in 2014 there. As per the nutrition researchers, the algorithm adding and subtracting to the nutrients does not fit with our understanding of biology. For example, the presence of fruits in the fruit drink juice does not offset the impact of added sugar in the body, because added sugar, it has its own pathway of absorption, assimilation, and utilization in the body, whereas the micronutrients, that healthy micronutrients that you are getting, going to get from the fruits, has a different mechanism altogether. So it doesn't fit our biology. It misinterprets the nutritional sciences. One of the important another concern is that product ratings are comparable against the product in the same category. So you can only compare a sweet biscuit with another sweet biscuit. You cannot compare a 4-star type of milk being as healthy as a 4-star type of chocolate bar, because it's a summary kind of a rating. It does not talk about individual nutrient content. To just make it very simple, these are the cookies. All it will be having is the refined wheat flour with oil and with sugar. It should receive a 1/2-star rating. But what if you add nuts to it? The rating can go up. This is the problem that is being highlighted by the expert, that the summary score rating with an algorithm-based system will mislead the consumers. And similarly with the chocolates with nuts. So what is the way forward for our country? A mandatory label that is chosen based on the science and public health evidence is the need of the hour. And we have already discussed and seen the evidence that the proven best practice is the front of package label, which is nutrient specific and is a warning label. They have been simple, effective in discouraging the junk food consumption. Several countries have already used it, and the evidence is there for us to see. And many other countries are considering them. Even the labels are saying them that use me, we are highly recommended. Now, with this, I would like to conclude. This is my last slide. This particular news article was published just yesterday, and it says that Australians would support a ban on junk food advertising. The poll finds. So this particular issue, Ranjita ma'am has already highlighted that another aspect to reducing the NCD burden is to lower down, is the behavior change that we need to have among the consumer, but it's a long-term process. Along with the behavior change, what we can do is start with some regulatory activities like implementation of front of package label, clear warning labels, so that it acts as a deterrent for the consumers not to use unhealthy food. With this, I end my presentation. I hope this particular webinar, since it's a concluding a presentation, was fruitful and an informative one for everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for concluding this topic. Moving forward with the right policy on FOPL. So for now, concluding session, I would like to call Dr. Saurabh Paul, Assistant Professor, Department of Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Raebareli. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tarun. So this is the last session. Before going to conclude today's webinar event, the session of question and answer is there. So there was a lot of question and answer in our YouTube. Out of this, since there is shortage of time also, so we have selected few questions. The first question one participants have asked, among various anthropometric markers of obesity, which one is the best? I think among the various anthropometric methods, the second one, and all these the questions, I think these are with the presentation with Dr. Tonu madam's presentation. So madam, if you kindly acknowledge these questions, and we are waiting for the answer also. Second one is, should not we use Asia specific classification of BMI that says more than 23 is overweight? So that is the second one. And third one is, for visceral obesity, can we use sagittal abdominal diameter? So these were the three questions we have selected. Madam, please.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to say that human physiology is not mathematics. It is not 2 + 2 = 4. In each one of us, the human physiology works in a different way. There is obesity, there is visceral fat deposition, there is fat deposition in your body. Doesn't mean that there is fat deposition within your carotid arteries. So what we actually need to measure is the carotid artery thickness. There are studies on that also, carotid intimal thickness. And that is where the problem lies. So judging anything by any indicator which is measuring your gross body and trying to assess whether there is deposition of fat in your arteries, it doesn't lead us anywhere. And furthermore, there are no studies. There is no evidence-based medicine suggesting which indicator is the best. So as of now, we go with BMI and we go with the waist circumference. We also take sagittal diameter, but sagittal abdominal diameter, there are studies which say that it is no better than waist circumference. In one study, it has been shown that sagittal abdominal diameter is closely associated with triglyceride level. It correlates with triglyceride level. It correlates with diastolic blood pressure, but it is not better than waist circumference in predicting central obesity. So if we want to get the actual measure of central obesity, we have to go for a CT scan, or we have to go for an abdominal MRI, where we can check the actual deposits of visceral fat within and around the abdominal organs. So we cannot say there is one specific marker which is the best, but as of now, we can continue with BMI. And of course, the Asian classification can be used. There's no problem with that, but I took the standard classification because that is valid globally. So I think I've answered all the three questions.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. So lastly, I want to request to all our participants, there is a pre-test and post-test link which will be shared or already shared in the chat box. So all the participants, those who are in the YouTube, please fill this post-test form, and it is very essential to get the certificate. So coming to the end, whatever presentation there has been, this is very important as from this presentation perspectives, because there was lots of things which has been shown, which can be discussed. So all those presentation given here, it is for educational purpose only. There is nothing, it is not related to hurt anybody's sentiment or any company. So that is from our side. And coming to the vote of thanks, a very good afternoon to all. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who have worked really hard to make this webinar a successful one and to happen. I, Dr. Saurabh Pal, Assistant Professor from the Department of CFM of AIIMS Raebareli, on behalf of AIIMS Raebareli, first of all, extend my most sincere thanks to the Almighty God for making today's event a successful one. I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to all our eminent speakers, Dr. Tanu Mehta, Madam, Professor, Department of Community Medicine, GSVM Kanpur, Dr. Ranjita Kumari, Additional Professor, Department of CFM, AIIMS Rishikesh, who spared their valuable time from their busiest schedule to grace this occasion. Today, we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will surely be going to encourage us in our future events. Our special thanks to Dr. Pradeep Agarwal, Associate Professor, Department of CFM, AIIMS Raebareli, who is the FOPL project lead. He supported us in all the possible manner to organize this webinar. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling weeks ago, and we have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very proactive and dedicated staff of our institute who are well versed in their job. I am short of words for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of the tasks beyond their comfort zone. A special thanks to our Executive Director, Professor Dr. Arvind Rajvanshi sir, and Dean Academics, Professor Dr. Neeraj Kumari, for being the catalyst that stimulated us to do our best and standing as a pillar of strength. I would like to thank our beloved head of the department, Professor Dr. Bolanath, for his constant help and guidance that radiated a source of energy within us. A special thanks to Dr. Neeraj Pawar, Assistant Professor, Department of CFM, who acted as a nodal officer in this institute to organize this webinar. I would also like to thank the people who worked behind the scene to make this event happen, our technical arrangement team, IT staffs, housekeeping staff, and also the media person also. Finally, I would like to thank all the enthusiastic participants without whom the event might not have been successful. Last but not the least, a big thank you to each of you who made this webinar memorable for all of us. So if time is money, then today you have spent millions for us. Thanks to all for your making this event successful one. Thank you. Thank you. Now the mic is over to Tarun.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining. Hope this webinar brought awareness regarding an important issue that informed choice on food consumption, and hope our country adopts the right front of package policy in line of our health goals. Have a nice day. Thank you.
इसको थैंक यू बोल रहे थे, मुझे लगा पड़ा बेचारा।